The fluorescent lights of the Riverside Mall flickered overhead as I walked past the food court, my shopping bags weighing down my arms. It was a Tuesday afternoon in November, the kind of day where the mall feels almost empty, with only retirees doing their walking routines and a few stay-at-home parents pushing strollers. I had just finished buying a birthday gift for my husband when something made me stop dead in my tracks. There, at a small table near the coffee kiosk, sat a woman hunched over a pile of coins. Her dark hair fell forward, obscuring her face as her fingers moved methodically through pennies, nickels, and dimes. Something about her posture, the slope of her shoulders, felt painfully familiar. My heart began to race before my brain could catch up. Sarah, my daughter. My successful, brilliant daughter who lived in a beautiful house in the suburbs with her husband Marcus. My daughter who drove a Mercedes and wore designer clothes. My daughter who always insisted everything was perfect, absolutely perfect, whenever I called. That daughter was now sitting alone in a mall food court, counting loose change like someone who needed every penny just to survive. I stood frozen for what felt like an eternity watching her. She wore a jacket I didn't recognize, something thin and worn that looked like it came from a thrift store. Her hands, which I remembered always being manicured and elegant, looked raw and unpolished. She didn't notice me standing there. She was too focused on organizing her coins into neat little stacks. $17.43. I would later learn that was exactly how much she had counted. $17.43 that she had been collecting for 3 weeks. I approached slowly, my footsteps uncertain. Part of me wanted to run away, to pretend I hadn't seen this, because seeing it meant I would have to confront something I had been avoiding for 2 years. But I couldn't. She was my daughter, my only child. "Sarah," I said softly. She looked up, and the expression that crossed her face will haunt me for the rest of my life. It wasn't happiness or surprise. It was pure, undiluted fear. Her eyes went wide, and she immediately began sweeping the coins into her purse with shaking hands as if I had caught her doing something shameful. "Mom," she said, her voice tight and artificial, "what are you doing here?" I set my shopping bags down and sat across from her without asking permission. Up close, I could see things I had missed during our brief controlled visits over the past 2 years. The dark circles under her eyes that no amount of concealer could hide. The way her clothes hung loose on a frame that had once been athletic and strong. The nervous energy that radiated from her like heat. "I'm shopping for your father's birthday," I said, trying to keep my voice casual, even though my heart was shattering. "What about you? Are you meeting someone?" She glanced around the food court like she expected someone to be watching. "No, I needed to get out of the house for a bit." I looked at the coins she had been counting, some of them still scattered on the table. "Sarah, what's going on?" "Nothing," she said too quickly. "Everything's fine. I was organizing some change. For charity, there's this donation drive at Marcus's work." The lie was so transparent, so desperate, that it physically hurt to hear her say it. This was my daughter who had never been a good liar, who used to tell me everything. Now she sat across from me, spinning a story about charity donations while counting pennies like her life depended on it. "Where's your car?" I asked, suddenly realizing I hadn't seen her Mercedes in the parking lot. The question seemed to hit her like a physical blow. She went very still, her hands frozen on the table. For a long moment she didn't answer. Then, in a voice so quiet I almost couldn't hear it, she said, "Marcus has it." "What do you mean Marcus has it? You have your own car?" She looked down at her hands, at her bitten nails and raw cuticles. "We're sharing now. It's better for the environment. 1 car instead of 2. "Sarah," I said, reaching across the table to touch her hand. She flinched, actually flinched, before letting me make contact. Her skin was cold. "Talk to me, please. What's really going on?" I watched her face cycle through a dozen different emotions. Fear, shame, anger, desperation, and finally, something that looked like resignation. Her eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them back furiously. She had always been so strong, so independent. Seeing her like this was worse than any nightmare I could have imagined. "He sold it," she finally whispered. 3 months ago. He said we needed the money." "Needed the money for what? You both have good jobs? You're doing well?" She laughed, but there was no humor in it. It was a broken, bitter sound that made my skin crawl. I don't have a job anymore, Mom. Marcus said it was better if I stayed home. Said his income was enough for both of us. When did this happen? A year ago, she said, and I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. A year. She had been hiding this from me for an entire year. She must have seen the shock on my face because she quickly added it was a big deal at first. Marcus said it would give me time to focus on other things, maybe start a family. But then she trailed off, her eyes distant. I waited, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. The mall sounds around us, the music, and the distant conversations, and the squeaking of sneakers on polished floors, all seemed to fade away until there was nothing but my daughter and the terrible truth she was finally about to tell. But then he started controlling everything, she continued, her voice barely audible. The bank accounts, the credit cards, even my phone. He checks it every night, Mom. Every single night. He goes through my messages, my call log, everything. Says it's because he loves me, because he wants to make sure I'm safe. I felt rage building in my chest, hot and violent. That's not love, Sarah. That's abuse. She shook her head quickly, defensively. You don't understand? He's not. He doesn't hit me or anything. Just, he worries, and he's been under a lot of stress at work. He needs to know that everything at home is stable. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab my daughter and shake her until she understood what was happening to her. But I knew I had to be careful. If I pushed too hard, she would shut down completely. She would retreat back into the lies and the denial, and I might never get another chance like this. Is that why you're counting coins? I asked gently. Because he controls all the money? She nodded, a single tear finally escaping down her cheek. He gives me an allowance, $50 a week for groceries and household items. But it's never enough, Mom. I try to make it stretch, but it's just not enough. So I started collecting change. Quarters I find in the couch cushions. Pennies from the cup holders in his car when he lets me clean it. I've been saving for weeks just so I could buy myself a coffee and maybe a sandwich. I stared at my daughter, this woman I had raised to be strong, an independent, who had graduated top of her class, who had once been so full of fire and ambition. She was sitting in a mall food court, proud of herself for saving $17 over 3 weeks. Proud of earning enough coins to buy a single meal. How did this happen? I asked, though I wasn't sure if I was asking her or myself. How did I not see this? Sarah wiped her eyes quickly, glancing around again with that same nervous energy. You weren't supposed to see it? Nobody was. Marcus. He's very careful about appearances. When you visit, when we see your friends or his family, everything has to look perfect. He makes sure of it. I thought about all the times I had been to their house over the past 2 years. The beautiful home, always immaculate. Sarah, always dressed nicely, makeup perfect, smile in place. Marcus, charming and attentive, playing the role of the devoted husband. I had believed it. God help me. I had believed every second of it. What about your friends? I asked. Have you talked to anyone about this? She shook her head. I don't see my friends anymore. Marcus says they're a bad influence. He says they don't understand our relationship, that they would try to turn me against him, so I stopped answering their calls. Eventually they stopped calling, and your phone. You said he checks it every night. She nodded. He installed some kind of app, can see everywhere I go, everyone I talk to. If I'm gone too long, he calls. If I don't answer right away, he gets angry. Not violent angry, just disappointed. And somehow that's worse, the disappointment. The lectures about how I'm not trying hard enough, how I'm not being a good wife. My hands were shaking. I clasped them together on the table, trying to maintain some composure. Sarah, you need to leave him. You need to get out of that house. I can't, she said immediately, her voice rising slightly in panic. Where would I go? I don't have any money. I don't have a job. I don't even have a car anymore. Marcus, he's not a bad person, Mom. He just has issues. His childhood was really difficult. His father was controlling too, and he's trying not to be like that. But sometimes he slips. He's working on it. He promised he would work on it. I felt tears burning in my own eyes now. This was textbook. Every excuse, every justification, every reason to stay that abuse victims give. And my daughter, my brilliant, beautiful daughter, had become one of them. You can come stay with us, I said firmly. Your father and I have plenty of room. You can get back on your feet, find a new job, start over. Sarah's expression shifted, and for a moment I saw something that looked like hope. But then it vanished, replaced by that same fearful resignation. "He would find me," she said quietly. "He has connections, Mom. His uncle is a police officer. His cousin is a lawyer. If I left, he would find me, and he would make it seem like I was the problem, like I was unstable. He's already started telling people that I'm depressed, that I'm not myself. He's laying the groundwork in case I ever try to leave." The calculated cruelty of it took my breath away. Marcus wasn't just controlling my daughter. He was systematically destroying any possibility of escape, cutting off every avenue, every support system, every resource she might use to get away from him. We sat in silence for a moment, surrounded by the mundane sounds of the mall. A teenager laughed at a nearby table. A baby cried in the distance. An announcement about a sale at the department store echoed through the speakers. Normal life continuing all around us while my daughter's world was collapsing. "How long has it been this bad?" finally asked. She thought about it, her eyes distant. "It started small, maybe 6 months after the wedding. Little comments about my clothes, my friends, my job. Then he suggested I quit working just until we got more settled. I thought he was being sweet, wanting to take care of me, but after I quit, things changed fast. He opened a joint bank account and closed my personal one. Said it was more efficient, more like we were really married. Then he sold my car, and he started checking my phone. Each thing by itself didn't seem that bad, but altogether, it was a prison," I finished for her. She nodded, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. "I don't know how it happened, Mom. I used to be so strong. I used to be so sure of myself. Now, I can't even buy a cup of coffee without feeling guilty, without wondering if I'm doing something wrong." I reached across the table and took both her hands in mine. "You haven't done anything wrong," I said firmly. "You are not the problem here. Marcus is abusive. What he's doing to you is abuse. Financial abuse, emotional abuse, technological abuse. It's all abuse, Sarah." She pulled her hands away, shaking her head. "You don't understand. He loves me. He just has a hard time showing it the right way. And I'm not perfect either. I make mistakes. I forget things. I don't always do everything the way he likes. Maybe if I was better." "Stop," I said, my voice harder than I intended. She looked at me, startled, listened to me very carefully. "There is nothing you could do, no mistake you could make that would justify what he's doing to you. Nothing. Do you understand me?" She stared at me and I saw something flicker in her eyes. Some small spark of the daughter I used to know. The one who wouldn't take anyone's nonsense, who stood up for herself and others. But then it was gone, smothered under the weight of 2 years of systematic manipulation. "I want to believe you," she whispered. "I really do. But I'm so tired, Mom. I'm so tired of fighting, so tired of trying to figure out what's real and what's not. Sometimes it's just easier to believe him. To believe that I'm the problem, and if I just try harder, everything will be okay." I felt something break inside me. This wasn't a conversation I could win with words. My daughter was too deep in the fog of abuse, too convinced of her own complicity in her suffering. I needed a different approach. "Okay," I said, "changing tactics. I understand. But will you do something for me?" She looked wary. "What?" "Will you meet me here next week? Same time? Same place? Just to talk? You don't have to make any decisions. You don't have to leave. Just meet me and talk." She bit her lip, considering, "I don't know if I can. Marcus might." "Tell him you're meeting me for coffee," I interrupted. "Tell him I invited you, and you didn't want to be rude. But he can't object to that, can he?" She thought about it, then slowly nodded. "I guess not. He likes you. He always tells people what a good relationship he has with my family." "Of course he does," I thought bitterly. That was part of the act, part of maintaining the perfect facade. "Then it's settled," I said. "Next Tuesday, 2 o'clock, right here." Sarah nodded again, but I could see the fear in her eyes. "What if he checks my phone? What if he sees the messages?" "Don't text me," I said. "Just remember, next Tuesday, 2 o'clock. Can you do that?" "I'll try," she said quietly. She gathered her coins and her worn purse, glancing at her watch. "I need to go. Marcus gets home at 5:30, and I need to have dinner ready." I watched her stand, this shell of my daughter, and felt a desperate urge to grab her and never let go. But I forced myself to stay calm, to smile, to pretend this was just a normal mother-daughter chat in a mall food court. "I love you, Sarah," I said. She looked at me, and for just a moment her mask slipped completely. I could see the terror, the exhaustion, the desperate hope that maybe somehow things could be different. "I love you too, Mom," she whispered. Then she turned and walked away, her thin jacket pulled tight around her shoulders. I sat there for a long time after she left, my shopping bags forgotten on the floor, staring at the spot where she had been counting her coins. $17.43. That was what my daughter's freedom was worth to her husband. That was how much he had reduced her to. But sitting there, surrounded by the ordinary sounds of the mall, I made a decision. Marcus thought he was clever. He thought he had isolated Sarah completely, cut off all her resources, all her options. But he had made one critical mistake. He had underestimated her mother. I picked up my phone and started making calls. First to my husband, then to my lawyer friend, then to a women's shelter I had volunteered at years ago. If Sarah wouldn't save herself yet, if she was too beaten down and exhausted to fight, then I would do the fighting for her. I would build her an escape route brick by brick, whether she was ready to use it or not. The next 7 days were a blur of activity. I met with lawyers who specialized in domestic abuse cases. I contacted financial advisors about protecting assets. I reached out to Sarah's old friends, the ones Marcus had driven away, and found them all eager to help. I rented a storage unit and began stocking it with everything Sarah might need: clothes, toiletries, a laptop, a prepaid phone. I also started investigating Marcus. And what I found made my blood run cold. My daughter wasn't his first victim. There had been a girlfriend in college. She had filed a restraining order that was later dropped. There had been another woman he dated after graduation. She had moved to a different state with no forwarding address. The pattern was there, clear as day, if anyone bothered to look. Marcus was a predator. He was methodical, calculated, and he had been honing his skills for years. Sarah never stood a chance. Tuesday afternoon came slowly. I arrived at the mall an hour early, my stomach in knots. What if she didn't come? What if Marcus had found out? What if something had happened to her? But at 2 o'clock exactly, I saw her walking through the mall entrance. She moved quickly, her eyes darting around nervously, and I realized she was terrified of being seen. She had told Marcus she was meeting me, yes, but clearly there would be consequences if anyone reported back that the meeting had lasted too long or seemed too serious. "Mom," she said, sliding into the seat across from me, "I can't stay long." I told him we were just having a quick coffee. I had prepared a speech, a careful presentation of everything I had learned and everything I had set up for her. But looking at her face, seeing the barely contained panic in her eyes, I knew none of that would work. Not yet. Instead, I pushed a small piece of paper across the table. It had a phone number written on it, nothing else. "What's this?" "A phone number," I said simply. "It's a prepaid phone that I'm keeping at the house. If you ever need help, any time of day or night, you call that number and I will answer, no matter what, no matter when. Do you understand?" She stared at the paper like it was a live grenade. "I can't, Mom. If Marcus finds this." "Don't let him find it," I said. "Memorize the number and throw the paper away, or hide it somewhere he would never look. But Sarah, I need you to have a way to reach me that he can't monitor." She looked torn, her hands trembling. After a long moment, she took the paper and quickly memorized the number, her lips moving silently. Then she tore the paper into tiny pieces and scattered them in her coffee cup. "Good," I said. "Now, I want you to know something. I'm not going to pressure you to leave. I'm not going to lecture you or tell you what to do. But I am going to be here, ready and waiting for when you're ready to get out." "Okay," tears filled her eyes. "What if I'm never ready? Then I'll wait forever," I said simply. "You're my daughter. There is no timeline on my love for you." She broke down then, really broke down. Sobbing into her hands, while I reached across the table and held her as best I could. Around us, a few people glanced over with concern, but I didn't care. Let them look. Let them see a mother comforting her child. After a few minutes, she composed herself, wiping her eyes quickly. "I really do need to go," she said. but thank you, Mom, for not giving up on me. Never, I said. I will never give up on you. She left, and I sat there for a while longer, feeling both heartbroken and determined. This was going to be a long fight, but I was ready for it. Over the next few weeks, I saw Sarah twice more at the mall. Each time, our conversations were brief and carefully monitored on her end. But slowly, I began to see small changes. She started asking questions about the resources I had mentioned. She wanted to know about the lawyer, about the shelter, about how someone could leave an abusive relationship safely. I answered every question carefully, providing information without pressure. I wanted her to feel in control of her own decisions, even if those decisions took time. Then, on a cold morning in early December, my prepaid phone rang at 3 a.m. My heart nearly stopped as I grabbed it, my hands shaking. Mom, Sarah's voice came through, thick with tears and terror. I need help. Please, I need help right now. Where are you? I asked, already getting out of bed and reaching for my clothes. I'm at a gas station, on Route 12, she said. I don't have much time. He doesn't know I'm gone yet, but when he wakes up, stay there, I said firmly. Do not move. I'm coming to get you right now. The drive to that gas station was the longest 20 minutes of my life. I kept the phone on, talking to Sarah the entire time, keeping her calm, keeping her from panic spiraling. She told me what had happened. Marcus had lost his temper over something trivial, a dish that wasn't clean enough, and for the first time he had grabbed her. Not hit her, but grabbed her hard enough to leave bruises. Hard enough to make her realize that the escalation she had been denying was real. She had waited until he fell asleep. Then she had taken his car keys and run. When I pulled into the gas station, I saw her standing under the harsh fluorescent lights. Still in her pajamas, Marcus's car idling nearby with the driver's door open. She looked like a ghost, pale and shaking and barely holding herself together. I got out of my car and ran to her, wrapping her in my arms. You're safe, I kept saying. You're safe now. You're safe. We left Marcus's car there with the keys in it. Let him figure out how to get it back. We drove to a hotel, not the shelter, not my house. Somewhere Marcus wouldn't think to look. Sarah slept for 14 hours straight, while I kept watch. When she finally woke up, we talked. Really talked. For the first time in years, she told me everything. Every instance of control, every manipulation, every tiny cut that had slowly bled her dry. And I listened, and I believed her, and I promised her that she would never have to go back. The legal battle was brutal. Marcus played the concerned husband perfectly, told everyone that Sarah was having a mental breakdown, that she needed help, that he just wanted his wife back so he could take care of her. His family backed him up. His friends testified to what a good man he was. But we had evidence. We had the financial records showing how he had systematically cut off her access to money. We had the tracking app he had installed on her phone. We had testimony from the women who came forward, the ones from his past who had been too afraid to speak before. We had the bruises on Sarah's arms that she had finally let a doctor photograph. It took 8 months, but the divorce was finalized. Sarah got her settlement, enough to start over. She moved to a different city, got a new job, started therapy. She changed her name, got a restraining order, took every possible precaution. Marcus tried to contact her 17 times in the first month after the divorce. Each attempt was documented and reported. Eventually, he moved on to his next victim. I like to think that maybe we saved the next one too, by establishing his pattern, by making sure there was a legal record of what he was. 3 years later, I met Sarah at that same mall food court. But this time, it was different. She drove there in her own car. She paid for both our coffees with her own credit card. She smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. We sat at the same table where I had found her counting coins, and she told me about her new life, about her job that she loved, her apartment that was all hers, her friends who actually cared about her, about the therapy that was helping her understand that none of it had been her fault. Do you remember the first time we met here? I asked her. After everything started? She nodded. I was counting $17.43. I had been so proud of saving that much. It's insane, looking back on it. But at the time, it felt like such an accomplishment. It was an accomplishment, I said gently. You survived. That's the biggest accomplishment of all. She reached across the table and took my hand. Thank you, Mom, for not giving up on me, for seeing what I couldn't see, for being there when I was finally ready to run. I squeezed her hand, feeling tears prick my eyes. Always, I said. I will always be there for you. We sat there for a while longer, drinking our coffee, talking about normal things. Her new job, my garden, plans for the holidays. All the ordinary conversations that had been stolen from us for so long. But as we talked, I couldn't help but think about all the other daughters out there. The ones sitting in food courts counting coins. The ones trapped in beautiful houses with perfect facades. The ones who think they're alone, that no one sees, that no one would believe them. I thought about how easy it had been to miss the signs. How thoroughly Marcus had hidden what he was doing. How close I had come to never knowing, never asking the right questions, never happening to be in that mall at that exact moment. And I made a promise to myself. I would never look away again. I would never assume that everything was fine just because it looked fine on the surface. I would ask the hard questions. I would trust my instincts. I would be the kind of person who sees the woman counting coins and doesn't just walk past. Because that's all it takes sometimes. One person who sees, one person who asks, one person who refuses to accept the lies. Sarah finished her coffee and checked her watch. I should get going, she said. I have dinner plans with some friends tonight. Friends, I said, smiling. That's wonderful. She smiled back, and I saw the daughter I remembered. The strong, independent, brilliant woman who had been buried under years of abuse, but had somehow survived. It's getting better, Mom. Every day it gets a little bit better. After she left, I sat there alone for a few minutes, looking around the food court. How many other stories were happening right now in this very mall? How many other women were counting coins, making excuses, hiding bruises? I picked up my phone and called the women's shelter where I had been volunteering. I told them I wanted to increase my hours, that I wanted to help in whatever way I could, because I had learned something important through all of this. Abuse hides in plain sight. It wears expensive clothes and drives nice cars, sends Christmas cards and hosts dinner parties. It looks like success and happiness and the perfect marriage. But if you look close enough, if you ask the right questions, if you refuse to accept the easy answers, you can see it. You can see the woman counting coins. You can see the fear in her eyes. You can see the invisible prison she's living in. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you can't unsee it, you have a responsibility to do something about it. That day in the mall wasn't just about saving my daughter. It was about learning to see what I had been trained to ignore. It was about understanding that evil doesn't always announce itself with violence and screaming. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it smiles. Sometimes it looks like love. But it's still evil, and it still needs to be stopped. I gathered my things and headed out of the mall into the bright afternoon sunshine. Somewhere out there, another mother was walking past another food court. Another daughter was counting coins. Another perfect facade was hiding a nightmare. But maybe, just maybe, that mother would stop and ask the right question. Maybe that daughter would finally tell the truth. Maybe another escape would begin. Because that's how we fight this. One conversation at a time. One truth at a time. One woman at a time. We see each other. We believe each other. We save each other. And we never ever stop fighting.